phone lines are now open.
I'm Jane Hawtin. Tonight we're getting your reaction to an unusual ruling that was handed down to a man convicted of battering his girlfriend. The man has been ordered to confess his crime to any woman he dates during the 1-year probation after he serves his 5-month sentence. Our guests are Mary Lou McPhedran, a lawyer and president of MeTRAC. Joining us now is Karen McArthur, a criminal attorney. Thanks for joining us. Now, you're not happy about this sentence.
I don't think it fits with our criminal code. I've reviewed the probation terms of the criminal code. The judge can only impose terms to ensure the good conduct of the offender and to prevent the repetition of the offense. I don't think this term prevents the repetition of the offense. It would inform the person with whom he's involved in a relationship. It doesn't. The order doesn't say a date. It says any woman that he's involved in a relationship with. It would inform her, but would it necessarily prevent the repetition of the offense? I don't think it would. I think all that it would serve to do is to humiliate the offender. And I don't think that's the purpose of the probation or of the sentencing regime.
Why would it humiliate the offender if what he's doing is telling the truth about previous behavior and a criminal conviction?
Because he wants to move forward with his life and looking backwards, which is what this order forces him to do, in embarking on a new relationship, on something that obviously caused him remorse because he did plead guilty, I think does humiliate the person. It's the same thing that we do with the stocks and the town square and having the whole community come out.
No, it's not the same thing. And I think that, unfortunately, your knowledge of the dynamic in a battering situation is perhaps back in those times when there were stocks.
Well,
I mean, if you have modern information,
Mary Lou. I have modern information. I've been on the board. I've served on the board of a shelter for battered women in Toronto. I'm very knowledgeable in this area.
I'm sorry to hear that, Kelly, because one of the key points here is that a batterer denies. And taking responsibility not only at the time of conviction, but throughout probation and for the rest of his life is a big part of preventive measures here. There is absolutely nothing untoward about this order. There is no way that any judge can only make orders that are guaranteed to prevent.
Mary Lou, it's illegal, it's unenforceable, and while it might be a good thing, it's not allowed for in our criminal code.
What makes it unenforceable?
Who does he have a relationship with? His mother, his doctor, his dentist? Does he have to go forward with every woman that he has contact with? Because arguably, you could construe a relationship with another female that broadly. It doesn't say in a dating relationship.
What's the harm in that? The issue here has a lot to do with anger management.
So, Mary Lou, you wouldn't object to him having to say this to everybody, right?
No, I don't.
So even if it ended up being for 12 months, every woman in his life, he has to...
Not at all. I have no difficulty with this whatsoever.
Don't you think that serves to humiliate him? Don't you think that serves to impede his progress forward?
No, I don't think it serves to humiliate him. I think
pillory the poor guy for his crime that he's done in the past?
For heaven's sakes,
I mean,
Karen.
yes, it's unfortunate,
You have
Mary
to
Lou,
think
what
about
he
the
did to
dynamic of a relationship. You have to think about the fact that abusing relationships usually begin in a very rosy fashion, that it is a pattern to deny, it is a pattern not to tell the truth. And what is very important here is it establishes honesty at the beginning and it helps him take responsibility for what he's done. There is absolutely nothing untoward. It can be enforced, and it is entirely constitutional.
Okay, how do you think it would be enforced? I'm not clear on how it could be enforced.
When you have someone on probation, whether it is to stay away from a particular individual, not to carry a weapon, not to purchase a gun, not to go near schools again, these are all conditions that are geared to prevention. None of them are guaranteed to work, and they invariably involve a certain degree of honesty on the part of the person who's reporting to their probation officer.
So you'd expect the probation officer to say, okay,
there's nothing substantially different or unusual about this.
How does this serve to prevent the repetition of the offense? All it seems to me it does is inform the prospective woman in the prospective
I'd sure like to know if somebody I was going on a date with had committed this kind of crime. Wouldn't that make me run in the other direction? It means there's no way that he's going to abuse me because I'm gone.
Well,
what is the benefit of keeping it secret, Karen?
And it may or may not serve to ensure that the relationship continues or it flounders. I mean, there are lots of women that stay in relationships after they've been battered. So not only have they been informed that it occurs, they've experienced it, and yet they stay.
What is the benefit of keeping it secret?
The benefit of keeping it secret is the law is applied as it should be. If you can't tell me how this prevents the repetition of the offence, then I don't see how it comes within the strictures of the criminal code.
Okay, let's talk to Kelly, who's calling from Western Ontario. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
What's your feeling about this ruling?
I don't oppose it at all.
Right? Why not?
As a matter of fact, I was involved in a domestic violence relationship for 5 years. I'm going to court. My trial starts in 4 weeks' time. And when it comes down to my victim impact statement, there's not a doubt in my mind that will be one of the first things that I request.
Really? You're going to ask for this when you go to court?
Oh, definitely. Most definitely.
And so what point would it do you think it would work, though, with your batterer? If he's found guilty, is this going to work, or is this going to humiliate him, or what's the deal?
That has nothing. You know what? Look at the humiliation that he put me through for 5 years. Mm-hmm. That it doesn't even make up for what I've been through.
Right. Is humiliation necessarily a bad thing?
Well, and how can you predict that it's humiliation? What we've heard from this man's own attorney is that he has accepted this sentence. And so we have Karen so worked up about his supposed humiliation, when what should be the issue is how does the system help someone like this deal with the kind of anger that leads to that kind of violence and break the cycle of violence?
I agree with that, Mary Lou. I'm not in favor of violence. I'm not in favor of battering. And simply because we take different views of how you approach this very ugly and violent problem doesn't make me wrong, nor does it necessarily make you right. I don't believe in humiliation, nor do I believe in retribution.
You don't know it's humiliation. You do not know this individual. You do not know this.
Mr. Johnston has accepted it, but I practice criminal law in the criminal courts day in and day out. Our criminal law is codified. It is not left to the discretion of the judge.
Probation is left to the discretion of the judge.
The criminal code. There are specific strictures that may be applied in specific circumstances.
And I believe the lawyer did say that he thought his client was going to be embarrassed by this. Let's talk to Mike, who's calling from Dundas. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Great show, by the way.
Thank you.
I think that the whole issue here should be we're getting into semantics of whether or not somebody's going to be humiliated and so on. I think if they've battered a woman, they certainly deserve to be humiliated. But I think the problem could be solved if by simply having a registry like they do for child abusers. If a man is caught abusing or charged with abusing a woman or physically assaulting her or whatever, it doesn't matter whether he served his time, whether he is on probation, have a registry. Any woman that wants to date this man should have a number that they can call and say, have you ever been charged? Don't you rely on him being honest about it.
Right.
He's not going to be honest, for God's sake. He's going to say, well, no, I'm clean. I've never done this, and you're the first I've ever hit, but I really love you. Whereas if she's going into this with an open eye, knowing this guy has once, twice, 3, 4 times, whatever, actually been charged, she's not going to date him.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, do we have the registry? Do we have the registry for women that hit their men too, or do we just look
maybe we should.
Do we just look at this as a male as the oppressor and woman as the victim? I mean, I think it's time to stop viewing women as victims. The flip side of being a victim is being a hero, and I oppose domestic violence, but I also believe in women empowering themselves and looking back, continually looking back, and pointing blame is not advancing that goal. Now, But
what if we did it for both sexes? I don't think people object to that. If a woman's charged with assault, she goes on the list too. It's not a bad idea.
Do you do that for all crimes? Do you do that for all crimes?
Because in fact what you're dealing with in the majority,
we have the criminal records. You can check a person's criminal record.
In the majority of these cases, it is men who are battering women. In the majority of the cases where there is a spouse killing a spouse, it is men killing women. You have 6 times the rate of women being killed by men than the opposite. You have 71% of the femicides, the intimate femicides, women being killed by an intimate partner in Ontario. In the most recent information that's available that tracks it from 1990 to 1994, 71% of them occurred in the homes with someone who is an intimate partner.
Right. So then you approve of this ruling because of the symbolic message that it sends out as much as the ruling itself?
It's systemic. It's not just symbolic. It's understanding that we're dealing with something that's much larger than an individual couple.
But isn't this a symbolic ruling that the judge has handed down?
You could take it as a symbol, but you can also take it as an important precedent. You can also take it as a standard setting that is a very significant and substantive move. That's how I take it. I don't see it as merely symbolism.
Let me put it this way. When I heard about this at first, viscerally, as a woman who deals with these issues on the front line, from a different perspective from Mary Lou, but let me tell you, I have to deal with complainants, victims, sensitively, many of them who I've seen with their blackened eyes. In my role as defending the person that's done this to them. Viscerally, I did the wave when I heard about this. And then I set the wave. I approved of what Mr. Justice Phelan did.
What are these?
Way to go. I'm a woman, let's take it back. Take back the night, the whole rhetoric. But then I sat and I analyzed it, and it's improper. It is illegal.
But you haven't given us one argument as to why it's illegal. And how interesting that they're not appealing it. Why are they not appealing if it's illegal?
I don't know why Mr. Johnston's lawyer is not appealing it. Perhaps he's not appealing it because it's a funding issue, because it's a battle that he doesn't wish to take on. And there are alternative ways to changing the probation order other than simply appealing it. He can move to a court of concurrent jurisdiction, a judge here or in any other province, and seek to have that probation order varied.
And you think it's going to be varied?
I'm not saying it depends on the offender's own choices, but certainly if this were to happen to one of my clients, I would recommend that it be varied and that it be hammered out. Put some statistics for it. I mean, if the Crown can demonstrate that a clause like this will ensure against the repetition of the offense and will ensure the good conduct of the offender, then perhaps my views aren't justified. But I don't see you, Mary Lou, being able to tell me how this clause ensures the good conduct of the offender and ensures against repetition of the offenses.
Okay.
Well, shall I try again?
Sure.
I think I have
quickly,
explained
and then we got it. We'll do it when we come back. Should the batterer be forced to admit his crime to the women he dates? When we come back, we'll meet an abuse survivor who says we should be worried about the rights of the victim, not of the abuser. We'll take your calls and your email. This is Jane Hawtin Live.